So I think this kind of leads nicely into enforcement, because I know some of the event producers sometimes get a little bit under pressure of, well, you're not enforcing this, and so I don't need to license music. Well, actually, it's not down to event producers to enforce music licensing. Something I always like to say is, they don't enforce you to not be stealing people's phones, but it's the law, and copyright law exists, and that's there to protect music. So it's not down to the event producers to be enforcing it, but of course it seriously helps, and means they're going to be much better protected. Now, we understand that there is a transition period. We've gone through a few kind of wavy couple years here, but it's kind of like safety rules. So they're there for a reason, and some gyms choose to ignore them and can put their athletes and the industry at risk. And essentially the same goes for music. There are going to be gyms and music producers who are not correctly licensing music, and it's going to put the industry at risk, and they'll continue to ignore it until something happens. And that something might be another lawsuit from a different publisher or a different record label. And that can happen unless we all start using music correctly. And you might ask, how does anyone know that you're actually licensing the music? Well, there are actually music industry people who are spectating competitions already, and they may well be checking if the licenses are true or not. And they can contact you at any time to demand payment, which will be obviously more than what you would have paid for a license. And they can threaten to take that further. And of course, we don't ever want that to happen. But the biggest tell-all for them as well is the sort of restricted artist list. They each have their own restricted artists. If they hear it in a mix, they know 100% that is not actually properly licensed. So some level of enforcement would actually be very beneficial for our industry, especially as we're kind of shifting and moving towards the Olympic movement. We don't want that sort of bad exposure. And we know that in the US, some event producers are already enforcing licensing of music, which is a great step. As for everyone else, it's not a matter of if, it's really just a matter of when. So you as a team, as a gym owner or a music producer, if you don't want to risk legal action, the best thing to do is to just license the music. And I hope that today we've kind of talked about the various different ways in which you can do that, what's going to be more cost effective than others, what other options do you have? And it's kind of your responsibility to be checking the music producers that you're working with, checking the license agreements, making sure that it is covering everything that you need. And if you're unclear or uncertain about something, you can check some of our materials that we've got on our Facebook group. You can always just double check with some governing bodies or an event producer and so on as well. But essentially, we're here to help as well. We believe that easy to access, fully cleared, impactful music is an important part of maximizing participation and a broad audience engagement within the sport. And we just, as a sport, we cannot tolerate another sort of legal risk with regards to music, and that's very much why we're here. Is we want you to be able to use music that you like and that and we're working on making that happen through direct relationships within the music industry, and we're clearing all those rights, working through the 6 million tracks, trying to figure out what is going to be available to you now and what will be available to you later on this year. But we're constantly uploading music every sort of week to 2 weeks.